Thank you. Good afternoon. People, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let's have some energy. Waziri Tuya, Katibu Ngeno, mkurugenzi mkuu wa Africa Climate Summit, Rais wa muungano ya wahariri Zumeida. I'm struggling and I'm trying at the same time. You need to appreciate that. Na mkurugenzi mkuu wa shirika la wahariri nchini Kenya. Afisa mkuu mtendaji, sio mkurugenzi mkuu. And this is why we should not have started with Kiswahili. Colleagues, journalists, editors, stakeholders present, good afternoon once again. My role this afternoon is very simple. It's simply to talk about the state of media reporting on matters climate change and what needs to be done to make it better, and which are the areas of collaborations that we can have with the government of Kenya, not only during the upcoming summit, but for future engagements, because climate change affects all of us, it matters, and we must have a very frank and honest conversations, especially amongst us as media. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is that we are yet to give this topic the attention that it deserves. If you look at our coverage, both in print, television, radio, digital, we haven't done a good job. And the reason that this has happened is simply because most of us feel that this is a very boring subject. Don't we agree? It's full of technicalities. It's full of jargon. It's full of issues that we think are not relatable to us. But colleagues, climate change affects each and every day of our lives. Every single thing that we do today, there's an aspect of a climate that has either been polluted, a climate that has either by design been interfered with, and people that think that Africa deserves less in global issues. Therefore, it is important for us that as journalists, as the voices of the people, we amp our coverage of issues climate change so that people know that it matters to us, people know that it matters to them, and we start making the small steps that will ultimately contribute to the good and the well-being of our world. But then again, the reason as to why we are not giving this the deserved acres of space could again be attributed to the design of how the people in this space engage with us. This conversation ought to have happened as soon as the president announced that Kenya was going to host the first Africa Climate Summit. Because if you want to change the narrative, who is best placed to assist you to change this narrative? It is not media. We are having it too late in the day, and I want to suggest that there are certain asks that we are going to put across as the Kenya Editors Guild, that we work more closely going forward so that we shine the light on this summit, first as a patriotic thing to do, but two, as a people who have been impacted largely by the effects of climate change from what is happening in the global north. It is therefore for us here important that after this, we develop a schedule of activities that the media, through the Kenya Editors Guild, can be involved in to ensure that this summit is a success. I don't know any of us in any of our platforms, if you've gotten feedback from all our audiences, that they are one, aware of the summit, and two, know why it is important, and three, their expectations for it. I doubt there is anybody here. And this is simply because the light on it has not been shined you've sat for far too long in the bedrooms planning, and I believe you could have gone out slightly earlier than this. So what must we do? Allow us both at the ministry level and at the secretariat to interact intimately with the experts, with the stakeholders, the organizers, so that we know the bits and pieces of the summit. Madam CEO spoke about media would really want to get interested to know, for example, the financials involved in this. How much has been raised to organize this summit? Because with that, then there's a lot of transparency that comes around it. So we really want you, and it would have been a good idea as part of your introduction to just mention to us who are these experts that are either in the room or the point of contacts that media can engage with directly, so that you get to know them and you get a feeling of what is happening and you interact with them in shining the light in this. That said, I think there are so many areas of collaborations that we can have with the ministry and the secretariat. I said that we have done dismally in covering climate change, but we have also made significant strides in the last 2 years. If you follow media closely, you realize that newsrooms today are setting up desks that strategically concern themselves with covering issues around sustainability, climate change, and the likes. And why are they doing that? Because we have realized that this issue is far too important to be left to be covered as other news. Ordinarily, when we do news, we structure it. We've got the general news, we've got the sports news, the business news, and the likes. However, just like we've done in matters health, and we're now exposing a lot of things that are happening in the health sector, newsrooms are strategically designing desks that cover issues climate change and sustainability. I want to believe there's an opportunity for a lot of partnerships and collaborations with these desks, so that we can capacity build and train journalists and train editors and even newsroom managers, so that they understand the significance of this and why it matters to all of us. That would be one area of collaboration that I think is important. The other area would be on story grants. As we might all know, is that media houses do not have the luxury of spending money in pursuit of stories. We want to achieve it with the least cost possible. But I believe the Secretariat and the Ministry have ways and means in which we can generate story ideas that are funded, and once they are produced, we air them out there so that Kenyans and Africans and the entire world can know that these issues are real, they're affecting people, and the impact that we're talking about is today being felt right deep inside our villages. There's an opportunity for that. And I'd suggest that we follow that more broadly, so that we shine the light on the issues around climate change. The other thing that I'd want to suggest as a result of the upcoming Africa Climate Summit, I saw you indicated that there are several side events that have already been agreed on. Unfortunately, I don't see any media-led side event. We can only change this narrative if we work closely with media, and we give media that opportunity to shape that narrative. So it would be important that the Kenya Editors Guild work closely with the Secretariat to develop a side event that will be media-led, that will tell not only Africa but the entire world that even media in Africa are seized of this matter, they are taking it seriously, and they are willing to help push for all those decisions that have been made since the Conference of Parties 1 to now we are heading to Conference Parties 28, that these decisions must be implemented, and the upcoming COP28 should not be another talk summit, just like the Africans head of state are proposing. So the media can work well with you on this front. Lastly, because I don't want to take a lot of time, I think that this goes to the ministry. Oh, before I speak on that, on the accreditation, how many of us, dear colleagues, are already registered to participate in the Africa Climate Summit? Because we need to be also honest and frank with ourselves. If we're going to get the support, we must also be more than willing to participate. How many of us have registered? I have registered. How many have registered? I'm talking about, because there are two elements to this. There's the registration, then there will be accreditation. And from what I gather, you can only be accredited if you are registered. So how many of us have taken up the registration? Let's raise our hands boldly. We are journalists. We don't shy away from tackling issues. The number is not encouraging. We need, because if we have to take stock of the Africa Climate Summit, we must be at the center and in the middle of all these conversations. That is when we'll be able to put these people to task, ask them the tough questions, and make them accountable. If we don't register, if we don't get accredited, then these decisions will be happening in our absence, and we will not have a platform to do that. So our request is, let us make media registration and accreditation seamless. Let us have a point of contact such that media can lean on them, because what happens in these international summits is that sometimes local media get forgotten. So if we can get a contact person at the Secretariat, then the Kenya Editors Guild will be pushing for as many journalists as possible so that we are accredited, we get a support desk at the summit, so that every decision, every deal, every agreement that is agreed on, we are there, we are present, and we can tell the world. Lastly, to the ministry, I think you're doing a lot of good things. However, political pronouncements get in the way of most of these good things. It is important that there be an established communication channel with the media, such that these good policy decisions that are made do not get clouded by political pronouncements, because this is too important for us, it matters to us, and the media is willing to work with you and support you in ensuring that we change this narrative as the summit hopes to do. And maybe let this be the first of the very many conversations we'll have with editors and journalists long after the summit and the COP28, because climate change issues are lifetime issues. We cannot afford to discuss them only when it is necessary. Let us discuss them every day. Let us discuss them all the time. Thank you, and God bless.